Sup shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track by an act named Playmakin Jody titled Don't Tell Them. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. We're going to listen through it from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Great filtering of this guitar riff at the start.
I rap, of course, I pass the torch, no new divorce. I leave in horses, basic courses, made some more shit, staging portions, made it more sense, made it more sense. Yes, I know, come on, let's go, come on.
I don't really want to pause too much in this review, don't worry. I just want to sort of like encapsulate just how quickly we got into the crux of the track there. All the different elements were, established early. It's great.
What we're doing is so perfect, they might ruin what we have here. I don't trust them, I don't think that they should know. Don't tell them what we're doing is so perfect, they might ruin what we have here. I don't trust them, I don't think that they should know.
I mean, it's like a really catchy chorus line there, the hook with the vocal line that gets stuck in your head. Some interesting, nice little higher melody synth or maybe guitar parts there, with a rolling, rumbling bass line there, and the drums propelling us forward with that eighth note groove. Nice. So, is it like a bad relationship or like a forbidden romance that's going on, and they don't trust other people because they won't be able to cope with that situation? What's going on? Okay, so those higher parts were sort of guitar parts with a bit of modulation and a bit of like rotary reverb or something like that, or that kind of watery the underwater kind of reverb they have. Cool. Because this is the conclusion of my review of this track called, Don't Tell Them by Playmakin Jody. What do I think this track is about? I think this track is about someone who is really into this other person. There's an intense attraction there. He was talking about not wanting to go back there or something like that. Maybe there's some sort of stuff that people are just not meant to know because it would sort of maybe put them off believing that the relationship was real or something like that. But then there's also this like, what we have, don't tell them, I don't trust them, they shouldn't know. So are we sort of suggesting whatever it is that we have got, we just shouldn't that just keep it between ourselves? I think that's basically it. They've got a sort of complicated situation and they don't want to tell anyone else because they figure that it'll just make things more difficult, I suppose. That's my interpretation, what I heard from the lyrics anyways. The vocals themselves were good. There was modulation on the vocals. It sounded like some meta-tuning kind of stuff going on. The transitions were very clear between notes. And it was like a sort of a synthetic vibe to it. I could tell the guy could sing. Like the melody choices there, the choices of the notes in those vocal melodies were good. They were nice and catchy. There was like cool responses as well between backing parts and the main lines. There was like some growling or some other sort of more kind of fryish textural effects going on in some of those verse and last outro parts, which I thought was great as well. We were clearly exploring the different possibilities of ourselves as a singer and as a performer. And I think that it worked well telling the story. I didn't necessarily feel the raw depth that maybe I was expecting from a song like this, but so much music within this genre is already like that. So that's just kind of a trade-off you often have with the synthy voicey kind of stuff, as you don't necessarily have it's not as gritty, but that's okay because things were so thick in that mid to low end that if you'd had too much kind of emphasis there on the vocals, it wouldn't have necessarily worked. Having a bit more colorful was a smart idea, so that was cool. The vocals were fine, and I'm happy with the story that was being told, and I do think there was an exasperation there, a sense of like trepidation, a fear of people finding out that I could hear in the voice though, so that makes sense with the story. The track at 2 minutes 10 is nice and short. It's well within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. It's on the better side of it. I think that the story we told in that form factor was smart. We didn't need more. The combination of those guitars, both sort of synthy, like the chorusy ones on the top there, with the filtered kind of faded or jaded, sort of like slightly overdriven bar chords and maybe chords we had there in the rhythm sections were great, you know. They added a sense of like a nostalgia to it, as if we were looking back on what occurred before and trying to rationalize it and figure out what to do next. The drums were great. I like the tone of them. There was a little bit of a buzz, a little bit of a sizzle to the sort of cymbal and kick takes that I appreciate. It made them blend a little bit better with the guitar parts, you know, as they shared similar textures, so that was cool. The bass line was nicely controlled in our low end, and it was well done and followed along with the root notes really well. There was nice filtering in the intro and outro, like automation of the way the instruments sounded, which made them more sort of engaging, even though we didn't really sort of depart too much from the main sort of chord progressions or bass lines that we had instantiated at the start. There weren't massive shifts between different sections harmonically. It was just a layering of stuff, but in a 2 minute 10 track that's okay, because the listener isn't going to get bored in that time frame unless you're just really monotonous in certain respects, and we definitely weren't here. It was short and sweet, and there was a nice sort of connection between how the theme sounded. It sounded sort of like tired and like almost exhausted, as if it was keeping that secret in there. But then there was also a sort of a bullish push forward to definitely not go and ruin it by letting anyone else in. There was a wistful kind of take on the danger involved. And I think that they managed to add some complexity to the arrangement and the theme there. They matched again well with the story and the vocals. So everything was well connected, and I think they didn't overstay their welcome or overplay. It was good. The studio recording, mixing and mastering was good. I liked the way that the vocals sounded in the mix. They were nice and present and clear with a little bit of filtering, and there obviously there were effects on there to kind of color them up a little bit, but that's fine. Nicely compressed and still with a sense of dynamic. No, was there dynamic range to vocals? I think the dynamic range in this song was basically due to the layering and taking away and reintroduction of instruments, as well as the filtering of the frequencies on the outro and intro takes. But that's a way of doing it for sure, you know. If you want to keep a tight, compressed, limited track, you need to subtract and add. And they did that here, dips and throws in the perceived energy levels. It was good. It was nice and wide in the stereo field, and it was there were no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum, with like the guitar, bass, drums, the lead guitars notched nicely over the rhythm ones on the sides there. And those lead melodies actually worked really well with all the stuff that was happening with the different vocal takes. I'm actually surprised that they managed to get them to sit in there and be equal partners and not sort of overlap too much or interfere, because they weren't that far away from each other, the lead guitar parts and where the vocals were situated in certain parts of the hook especially. But that's cool. They did well. That's just the mark of good studio production, you know. Yeah, the leveling was good. And it's there was dynamic range, and it was nice and loud without pumping. And effectively, this is my review of this track, Don't Tell Them, by Playmakin Jody. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via the various social medias and their Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.